Hi, welcome back to my channel. Tonight we'll be cooking chicken Alfredo. It is my last video that I did was on salmon with capers and citrus pasta, and that was my best friend's favorite pasta dish that I make. This here is my favorite pasta dish that I make. I love it. It is so easy. But we're just boiling water again, same deal. 5-quart pot of water, half full, with a little bit of salt and some oil. And then while that's getting ready to boil, I'm going to start cooking my chicken. I turn it on medium high. On my burner, it's about a 7. And then I just start cutting the chicken pieces into, you can either do long strips or just little chunks. I like just little chunks. And I use 2 chicken breasts, boneless, skinless. Now, you can make this fettuccine Alfredo. Gosh, I keep calling it that. You can make it with fettuccine noodles if you want, but I like to use the thin spaghetti or the linguine noodles, the little smaller gauge pasta. All right, now that the water is boiling, I took 1 head of broccoli and I just chopped it up. I washed it and chopped it up into little pieces, and I'm just going to throw it in there and let that cook until it's bright and beautiful. And you don't want it real mushy, but you don't want it too hard and crunchy still. Just cook it there for about 2 minutes. And again, I'm using a really sharp knife and cutting up this chicken. And I put about 2 tablespoons of butter in the burner, in the frying pan. That's actually a chicken fryer. It's a deeper pot skillet to cook in. Let's turn that around. You let that butter melt. Don't let it burn though. Butter can scorch real easy, and then it'll ruin the flavor of everything. That broccoli's looking good. And do you see how bright green it is right now? I just let it cook just a little bit longer. Then I start throwing these chunks of chicken into the skillet and let them brown a little. And it's just so in bite-sized pieces. You can make them however you like. I like the chunks. Let me wash my hands. I think that broccoli's about done. Don't want nobody getting salmonella around here. I just use a slotted spoon and get all that out. See how bright it is and pretty? And that's just about right. It's not raw still, but it's not cooked till it's just a bunch of mush. Then I use the same water that's boiling to boil the pasta. Get all those pieces up. And once again, if you grab about a fistful, that's about 1 serving. So I grabbed 2 fistfuls. Then Stir it around, make sure it doesn't stick together. Nobody likes a big wad of pasta in their food. Let's continue chopping the chicken. I know there's lots of chefs out there that are probably going to be mortified because I'm using dried spices instead of fresh herbs, but you know, I just don't have a green thumb. Everything I have, I forget to water or doesn't get enough sunlight, and it's just not worth it. You can see how much just 2 breasts of chicken makes, and this makes a lot of pasta. This feeds probably 6 people. But you just got to make more noodles if you want to serve more. Okay, now for all of the, let me get this thing out of the way. For the chicken, the seasoning of the chicken, put a little bit of salt, some pepper, then I add the oregano. Whoops, wait, that's Italian seasoning. It's about a teaspoon. And in my video where I made the mocha cupcakes, I said you have to be really precise. And that is true in baking. When you bake something, you have to be precise. You cannot just eyeball it. But with cooking, you can. You just put what's good, looks good. And this is oregano, dried oregano. And the reason I'm crushing it in my palm like this is because when it's dried and it's been sitting in those jars, it just kind of loses its flavor. And that kind of helps release whatever's left over after it's been dried to oblivion. And then I put in about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Stir that all up. You just want to get this to where it's pretty much cooked through, because it's not going to sit in the pot and cook even more. You want to cook it all the way through. Turn it up a little. And everything that I make is usually a pretty quick recipe, because that not linguine, but the thin spaghetti citrus pasta I made with the salmon took maybe 20-25 minutes. And that's about the same time frame that this takes to cook too. So when you get home from work and you don't feel like you can cook something, this is so easy and it's delicious and everybody will love it. And if you keep stirring it like I do, it'll never get the nice brown coating and seared sides. So, but I just can't leave it alone. I gotta constantly stir it. I don't know why. I've just the way I've always cooked it. And of course, if you cut it into the little strips, it cooks a lot faster. These chunks take a little bit longer. But this Alfredo sauce that I'm going to teach you to make, you can put it on pasta and serve it with shrimp, and I've heard it's really good. I'm not a seafood eater, so I can't honestly tell you it's delicious, but when I've made it for other people, they've just raved about it. But Alfredo sauce is to make, and there's no reason to buy it in a jar, because this is so much healthier. You know what's going in it, and it just tastes better. Okay, those look about done. And then what you do is you take about a 1/4 cup of flour and you just pour it right in there. And you stir it around. And it's going to get all clumpy and look awful on your chicken, but trust me, it works out. You're making a roux, except it's not like gumbo roux. You don't cook it till it's real dark. You just cook it till it's coated everything real good. And all the liquid is pretty much gone. Okay, now you add milk. And I just pour in, it ends up being about 2 cups of milk. That's about 1 cup. That's about 2 cups. You just stir it around. And you keep it on that medium heat, about 6. I had it on an 8. Whoops. You got to constantly stir it, because if you stop, then it'll stick to the bottom and it'll scorch, and then it'll be disgusting and burnt, and you just got to throw out and start all over again. And what that does is when it starts to bubble, the flour and the milk come together, and it just thickens and makes a really nice sauce. And you can always double it and make it, even though you use the same amount of chicken, you can double the milk and the not the flour though. Well, yeah, you have to. Never mind, don't know what I was thinking. But anyway, you double it, and that'll make it go farther. So if you have to serve more people, and then you just cook extra pasta. But this amount right here is good for about 2 or 3 servings. Okay. Let's check that pasta. I think it's done. Let me taste it. No, it needs a little bit longer. Okay, you can see how it's thickening up. And if it gets too thick, you can always add a little bit more milk. But if it's too runny, you're just out of luck, because you can't add more flour. Because if you add flour later on, first of all, if you add it to flour to a hot liquid, it'll get little lumps of flour, and you'll be eating it, and you'll just be eating blobs of dough. And also, you have to cook the flour from the beginning, because if you add it at the end, it tastes like you're eating raw flour, and you don't want that. Okay. You can see how it's still, it just depends on how saucy you want it. I like mine about medium, so that when you take your finger and you run across, it leaves open. It doesn't go back together. So that's pretty much done for me. Then you turn the heat off, and you add grated Parmesan cheese. Now, I just do this. That's about a 1/4 cup. And you just kind of crumble it in there. And I add about 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan. You can always add more if you like more afterwards. Whoa, that made a mess. Normally, I'm not this sloppy. And you just stir it enough to where the cheese is kind of melted. Now, Parmesan never really melts all the way, and you don't want to keep it on the heat because then it'll curdle. So you just stir it around. I don't know if you can see that. It's nice and perfect the way it should be. And these noodles are done. So in my last video, the picture quality was terrible because of the lighting, but you just put the colander down there and you hold it by the handles and then you just pour it down the sink, and I'll bring it back and show you what it looks like. Okay, it literally, you can dump it upside down and not a noodle will come out. And then you just take your colander off and you have perfectly drained noodles. All right, then what you do is you add the broccoli to the Alfredo sauce. Now, if you're making the shrimp, I don't suggest putting the broccoli in there. Just put the shrimp and the Alfredo sauce. And you stir it around till it's all delicious and good. Then you add your pasta. You just stir it around. And then the pasta will soak up some of that sauce as well. And you may find that you need to add more salt because the pasta is real bland, but that's just up to you. And that's it. Let me get a plate and show you how beautiful it is. And it's so delicious. Look at that. That didn't even, how long did that take us? What, 15 minutes maybe? And if you want, you can add more Parmesan on top. Oh, the lighting is terrible. I can't get it to, there you go. How's that? I hope you enjoy it. I hope you make it because it is delicious. It really is. Have a good night.